There is something new every day. The future feels so unpredictable. Where could we be in 15 years? Our playgrounds may change. Learning may not need classrooms. Robots might help us meet time for more important things. Will virtual life be our new social life? Coming? Don't worry about what the future will look like. Just prepare for it. Fearless plans from Aegis Federal Life Insurance help you and your family prepare for the future.
Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Backstage with Boria with World Cup winning captain Eoin Morgan, someone who's been there, done that for England and is one of the best of his generation. Someone I saw at Lord's in that fateful night on, in July of 2019 when perhaps we saw the greatest 50-over match ever played. Perhaps it was set up for him. Perhaps it was set up for his team. Another World Cup coming up. How do you look back? I mean, you're world champion going, your team will go in as defending champions. But just tell me a little bit, that particular afternoon, evening, just look back for me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's nice to be on. Here, I look back at that whole campaign, really, the 4 years leading into what culminated in what I think is one of the greatest games ever to be played. Very, very fondly, because the journey that we went back, I suppose, from the 2015 World Cup, where we were at rock bottom as a 50-over team, and the journey that we went on rebuilding with a new set of players, mixing a little bit of experience with the guys that we had, was absolutely remarkable. Right from that first game where we played New Zealand in the start of the summer in 2015. I think we scored 408 in the first game that we played together, right through to that World Cup final, was just such a special changing room to be a part of, with so many good people, behind the planning, the strategy, the tactics that were involved in implementing, our journey to becoming world number one 2 years later, and then going into the 2019 World Cup as favourites. So we absolutely loved it. The drama on that given day at Lord's was crazy, and certainly an experience that I will never ever forget.
I was commentating, I remember, with Clive Lloyd, and when that final, I think it's Clive Lloyd and perhaps Steve O was also there. Each one of us were looking at each other. Nobody had any words. We were just like, nobody had anything to say, and each one was saying, you go, you go. We didn't know what to say, but unbelievable. And I was so pleased for you in front of your home fans to be able to win that. But the team that is going in this year, Eoin, how do you look at this team? I mean, with perhaps Jofra Archer not being there, fully fit, etc., is the England team slightly top heavy? How do you see England? Do you rate them as favourites?
I think they're a brilliant team, and I'd probably have them as second favourites at the moment. Personally, I think India at home are just a more confident team, and that's going into every World Cup. You go back to 2015, Australia would have been favourites, home advantage, strong team. But England, you shouldn't underestimate England by any stretch of the imagination. They're a very strong team. The fitness of Mark Wood coming back into the team, and the express pace that he's bowling at in the Ashes at the moment is a really good sign for Joss Buttler and his men, going to India in October. So I still believe that they're going to be a massive contenders when it comes to the business end of the tournament, just due to the level of talent that they have, both in their batting lineup and their bowling lineup. And it's going to be a real spectacle. The contenders probably outside of India and England, I would say would be Australia and Pakistan. Playing in India is always a tough challenge, where you need all bases covered, given that you're going to travel to the four corners of the country and experience different conditions. And I believe both sides in Australia and Pakistan have bases covered.
And the two things that stand out about you for me: one, composure under pressure, and you as leader. And that's why I asked this question. Rohit Sharma will perhaps be facing his sternest test come the World Cup. We've not won an ICC trophy for 10 years. Last was Edgbaston 2013, which I was there. And that sort of will build a lot of pressure. You played in India multiple years on Indian soil. You know the Indian fans. Just set it up for me. Rohit Sharma on home soil along with Rahul Dravid.
Yeah, Hero, I think they're a really good combination. I'm a big fan of Rohit Sharma as a captain and as a leader. And even before he had the captaincy armband, you would say that he was still contributing both on the field and in the changing room. And you speak to players that have played in the same team as him, and they reiterate that in spades. And in many ways, very similar to Virat Kohli in the way that he wants to grow the team and is very, very serious about lifting silverware. And for me, having a combination like that and the calm nature of Rohit Sharma and the experiences he has had over the years, he will be able to utilize that on home soil, which I think is a huge advantage, because playing in home conditions, there's always that comfort in knowing conditions inside out and being able to make clear and concise decisions, and then being able to fully commit to them over a period of time, particularly on the big stage of a World Cup when you're under pressure. I think that is a big advantage. So I see them being, strong favourites going in to that World Cup, and having the likes of Virat Kohli, who was there in the team back in 2011, winning that home World Cup is another advantage to that, because dealing with the pressures that they did back then, they did really, really well under the leadership of MS Dhoni. And I believe that, the brilliant leadership that both Dravid and Rohit have, if they can manage it, that they'll certainly be contenders.
I will ask about Virat, but before that, another leader. Joss Buttler, with his IPL, Rajasthan Royals, and playing all over India, scoring hundreds and hundreds of runs. Does that sort of give him that little advantage? Success in India, being sort of one of the most dominant with all this IPL experience?
Yeah, here it has to be said he's obviously a brilliant leader, and in his first World Cup he lifted silverware back in Australia in November. So you have to sit back and admire that, but also the quality of player that he is. He's one of the best white ball players, I believe, that's ever played the game. He plays it in a different way. He plays it all over the world, and just, he will go down as one of the greats of white ball cricket. And his role as captain and as a player in that England team is integral to their success. You see, his leadership style is very much his own, which is great. It means he's being very authentic, and every time you hear him speak, that message is always clear and transparent in what he wants to try and achieve. And I think that calm nature under the pressure of the World Cup, similarly that Rohit will find himself in, is always nice to have experience playing in that country. And he won't be the only one. England, I've had a lot of players over recent times that have contributed in IPL success. More recently, you've the younger crop of players coming through, the likes of Harry Brook, Joe Root even experienced his first IPL this year. So I think the challenge of playing away from home now isn't as big a gap as it probably used to be, and that's due to the players traveling more and playing in domestic T20 leagues around the world and having some sort of success, or even a little taster into what the conditions are like.
I actually absolutely agree with that, because that's why I asked the question. Now, Virat Kohli, all of India, maybe his last 50 overs, who knows? We saw what he did in the IPL. We saw what he did in the last T20 in Australia. How do you see Virat Kohli? Because all of India, all of the cricketing world will be focused on Virat Kohli.
Yeah, well, here is a truly remarkable player who I've admired for a long time, and not only the volume of runs he scores, but actually how he carries himself both on and off the field is something really special. And when you look at the Virat Kohli as just purely as a player, he's the player that you don't want to play against on the big stage, because he loves the big stage. He harnesses all of the energy and hype around big games and uses that to his advantage. And there are very few players, certainly over the course of a generation that I played in, that had that type of ability. So the World Cup is yet another stage that he will lean in and really, really look forward to playing a big role in Rohit Sharma's team, and he will want to win. He is that type of person. He is that type of competitor that there'll be nothing more satisfactory than lifting the trophy. And that type of focus within a team creates its own leadership style within the change room, and it gathers and harnesses any other players that might be nervous or hesitant. So hopefully that they can harness the momentum that he will bring and the volume of runs that he will bring as well.
Fantastic. Fingers crossed, Owen. Fantastic that Virat does that. We are fighting for cricket's inclusion in the Olympics, and all the vibes that I'm getting from LA so far seem to be positive. Do you think going forward, the T10 format lends cricket's inclusion in the Olympics and is perhaps the format that the ICC could possibly look at?
Yeah, here for me, it's, it would be incredible to get cricket into the Olympics just because of the eyes that watch the Olympic Games. The exposure that we would have would be amazing, and exposure that we're solely reliant on T20 cricket taking cricket around the world to the four corners, but we can't all of a sudden wait for all that private investment to get to the places where you actually want it. So the Olympic Games would accelerate that dramatically, because people want to win medals regardless of what sport they're in. So there would be a huge level of financial commitment from governments around the world if cricket was included. And so one of the downsides of cricket is that it's quite a timely sport.
Right.
So trying to find a vehicle that maximizes cricket's exposure if we're accepted into the Olympics is something that would be a huge challenge, because you would want at least 8 teams to play in the tournament, possibly 10. And who those teams are, we don't know. But if it was a T20 tournament, would take about 5 weeks. And that for me wouldn't be maximizing its potential. So I would lean towards a really shorter format and in the Olympics, just because the level of exposure is more important than actually the longevity of the game. And it would certainly lend itself more to the T10 format than T20.
Okay, that's where I end because my time is up. But as I said, you've just set it up for me. The way Zimbabwe embraced this T10, what I saw before that during the ICC qualifiers, that country loves its cricket, and I'm sure they've loved you, Eoin Morgan, because you're a top statesman of the game. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you joining me and hope to catch up physically soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for having me.